All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We are going to be putting on a Hat-Trick, Marquis, and Spectra webinar as we discuss Hat-Trick's archive solution. Today's presenters are Matthew Tegg, who's the post-production technical manager at Hat-Trick Productions, Chris Steele, the managing director at Marquis Broadcast, and Chris May, our media and entertainment business development specialist at Spectra Logic. We will be answering questions at the end, but please feel free to add any questions into the box within the GoToMeeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matthew from Hat-Trick.
Hi there. I am the post-production technical manager at Hat-Trick Productions, and we have recently invested in the Marquis project parking. The reason we did this was over the last couple of years at Hatchet Production, we've taken on our own post-production facility. So we have been handling the media for all of our shows, as well as a couple of our other sub-companies. We started to look about 2 years ago for a product that would give us some kind of glacial kind of like backup solution as we were creating more and more media and more files every year. We hold on to our master camera footage, and we also hold on to our Avid media, and for a good year we were starting to hit our capacity, so we were introduced by Ovation Data to Spectra Logic and the Black Pearl, which was just coming out of development at the time, and we looked into them as for the reasons of them being an open source provider that would allow us to scale upwards with all our media and start getting everything onto LTO tape in an open format that we would be able to pass on or use freely in terms of licensing. We would just have to license our slots. And we also wanted to, as part of this process, start archiving our Avid media, as we have a lot of returning series. We handle shows for our sub-companies, and we also wanted to be able to share things like music libraries, sound effects, GVs between the separate shows, but with also having to keep all of that on our online Avid media storage at all times. We also invested in an Avid interplay to help us manage like the production assets, and with the help of Spectra and Marquis, we've implemented a solution that allows us to put all of our Avid media from a completed show away onto our Spectra Logic tape library, and with the Black Pearl keeping an object ID of all of the assets that we have, which means rather than what we had to do before, which was restore entire workspaces with the Avid databases intact, and then have to go through with media tools and pick out files we wanted, or what sometimes was quicker to restore native cards and then retranscode them in, meaning that we created duplicates in our system. We were able to have a view which allows us to look back at individual bins, sequences or files and actually select them as a restore, bring them back into a project of our choosing, and that has saved us countless hours, as well as the most important thing is how easy it is to train our edit assistants and our support staff on the use of the Marquis products, because before teaching people how to use Avid database structures and obviously the OP1A atom filing names isn't terribly clear to a lot of people. So having a front end GUI for restoring Avid media was absolutely crucial for us, and has been a real big help since it's been implemented. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what Marquis has done for Hat-Trick Productions. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. And now we'll pass it along to Chris Steele to talk a little bit about project parking.
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks, Matt. I'm going to talk about project parking, which is a Marquis Broadcast product, which was supplied by Altered Images, who also did the systems integration. Project Parking is really a management tool for Avid storage, and it's capable of many different things, but the real core bit of the technology is that it understands the relationship between those Avid media files, the OP atoms that Matt was talking about, and the Avid projects and bins. So it knows where every media file is that's used in every bin and on every workspace that holds media on your ISIS or your Nexus. It knows who's been using them, how old they are, how big they are, and it does all of this accurately, which is really, nobody else does it quite like that. And also, to provide additional confidence, it's been certified by Avid as a complete solution and certified to work on their storage. So, moving on. So here's an example of a management screen in Project Parking, and we're showing you how many projects there are and on how many workspaces and how many media files, but also how many of the media files are actually offline. So those are media files that are referenced in a project but aren't actually there on the workspaces. And we can also show you the duplicate and orphan files. And we can do all of this tracking it over time, so you can go back and see how it's changed from one analysis to another, whether that's daily or weekly. So those orphan files, they're media which has not been used by any project. So they're using up space on your storage, and no project's using them. So they're wasting space, and it's very difficult to find them without a product like Project Parking. So we can take those and we can sweep them off the system. Once we've done a secure backup, we'll delete them from the ISIS or the Nexus. And there's also duplicate media. That's media that is on multiple workspaces. It might have a different name, but it's the same media, and we do a checksum to prove that. So we can delete that from one-on-one workspaces. Now we can look at how media is being used by our projects over time and track that. So here's a graph showing how media is being used on particular workspaces over time, and you can look at one or all or many of the workspaces. Similarly, you can look at how individual project or projects are using media and how their use of space is growing or shrinking. This is really, really helpful when managing a lot of people using your ISIS or Nexus at the same time, and projects that are coming and going. So often customers use this kind of display to discuss projects at weekly meetings. So we can help add value to your Nexus and ISIS. Having difficulty. Oh, here we go. So we can track the history of usage, which is great for planning your capacity and such like. We can monitor which projects are storing media on which workspaces and maximize the use of your storage. We can transfer projects from, say, to a laptop or to another facility, carrying both the project metadata and all of the media that the project uses, which makes it much easier to be agile with your projects. We can archive finished projects, or we can park them temporarily whilst the project is on hold, and do so in an easily reusable format. When you're completely finished and you've got a good archive of the project, you can even delete it and maximize your usable space and remove any of that unused or duplicate media. So we can park projects to any tier 2 storage, but we've got really good API integration with that Pearl, which has been certified by Spectra. And that's helpful because we're making direct use of going to the Black Pearl and getting the most out of that integration. Okay, good. And there are great benefits to that joint model. Because we're offering Project Parking and Black Pearl together, because they've been certified in a rigorous process by Spectra people, clients can have confidence in a solution which is both robust and reliable. The integration has been designed and agreed by both Marquis and Spectra engineers, and with fewer vendors there's been less confusion. It avoids the finger pointing when customers have issues. And as Black Pearl is your critical archive, you need to be really confident about who's writing to it, so that certification is very important. What we write onto the archive is a very simple file structure, and that's easily understandable by any avid engineer. So they'll be able to understand that immediately. You don't need to use Project Parking to get it back. Some examples of customers using Project Parking, using parking technology. Danish Radio are using Workspace Parking to do nightly backups of 600 terabytes of ISIS to 1.5 petabytes of storage. Warner Brothers TV in the UK is using Project Parking to manage about 250 terabytes of edit share and 96 terabytes of ISIS and move projects between them. And BR in Germany is using Project Parking to archive all of their Avid projects. So that's a quick run through of Project Parking. I'm going to hand over now to Chris May, and he can talk about the Black Pearl side of things.
Great, thanks, Chris. Very interesting stuff and very cool stuff. I'm just going to kind of talk about how Hat-Trick utilizes our Verde system, Black Pearl, and our Spectra tape libraries. So Verde is our NAS-based nearline disk storage solution, and how they're utilizing it is they're ingesting rushed and camera content onto the Verde, and then they move it over to the Black Pearl using NFI. Hat-Trick is taking the content, it's copying it from any number of different sources, Windows machines, Macs, memory cards, camera cards, etc. And what they're utilizing it for is they're dropping the content into named directories for episodes or content generators in special buckets that are created in the Black Pearl, which I'll go into in a second. And then that content via the Black Pearl gets pushed off into our Spectra T120 tape libraries and written to tape. If a client does want that content back, or a project needs to be refinished, or something needs to be changed, they simply can use our free Eon browser and drop and drag it back into the Verde, bring it back into their editing system, and or deliver it in whatever manner makes sense to those customers. So here's kind of the high level of their workflow. You know, as we all know, especially with Hat-Trick, business needs change, and new workflows are required. And the great thing about Black Pearl is that offers scalability to do just that. And they are utilizing our tape libraries currently, where they're creating one copy that lives in the T120, and then they're ejecting another copy that gets sent off, and which really helps out with their insurance premiums to guarantee that they can always get that content back. If Hat-Trick does decide that they do need more storage, nearline storage, we do have our Arctic Blue object-based disk storage, which is a really efficient way to keep stuff and make it accessible in a very timely manner. It's low cost, 15 to 20 cents a gig, which is a lot less expensive than your typical high capacity spinning disk. It has a longer life. We use, there's three things that kind of tend to make a disk not last as long, the life cycle of a disk. That's environmental vibrations, how often it's read and write, and how often it's powered up. So we have a powered down technology, so if content hasn't been accessed within an hour, that disk will spin down, and until a customer or hat trick decides they want to access that content, then it will spin back up immediately. It's designed for infrequently accessed content, mid to long-term retention of assets, and the assets can be managed, and the media policies can be managed through the Black Pearl. So it could be something as simple as, I need this to live here for 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, and a copy will also be available on tape. And it's scalable up to 6.1 petabytes in a single rack, standard single rack. And then the other beautiful thing about Black Pearl is if Hat Trick decides that at some point they need to start utilizing the cloud, or whether that be Amazon and or Azure and or whatever cloud service they want, they can start to utilize that through Black Pearl with our S3 protocol. If they want to start moving workflows off, whether they have to distribute and start doing transcoding, they want to store databases, their metadata, their low res. It's a simple thing to do. Also, if they have customers who are starting to ask for simple distribution through the web, it's a simple configuration. You go into Black Pearl, create that in our advanced bucket management policies, and it's already there. So if you have the Black Pearl, you have everything. You already have that infrastructure to do all that. And the other great thing is there's no annual middleware costs with this. The cost stays predictable, steady, and flat. As you grow your business and your media needs, the costs don't go up to support and license the proprietary middleware functionality. As you know, the more assets you start to manage, those middleware costs go up year over year. The other thing that Hat Trick is utilizing that's a very great technology is LTFS, and it's a standard format developed by IBM. LTFS natively creates self-describing tape formats that is readable by any LTF compliant application. Using LTFS coupled with LTO ensures content portability and availability well into the future, and it simply just doesn't lock you down to one proprietary technology or one storage. So, if they have an IBM LTFS drive, an HP LTFS drive, you can take that content, and if they ever want to deliver it to a customer or a third party, all they have to do is eject that tape, that third party or other customer ingests it or puts it into their LTFS drive, and it's immediately available in however they want to utilize it. Another great thing is with LTFS is in the Black Pearl solution is Hat Trick is currently using LTO6. If they want to go to LTO9, or they just want to go to LTO8, LTO8 is the next generation. But if they want to wait till when 9 comes out, it's just simply a change a policy in BP, and it really truly happens in the background. Currently, if you're using a middleware, you have to license and have the middleware migrate the data and use scripts to manage their proprietary information. And what we do with it is you simply change the media policy in Black Pearl, dedicate a drive, and partition off the library, and it truly just happens in the background. The other thing is our media lifecycle management. And essentially what we do and Black Pearl does is it monitors your assets. And if there is a issue or the thought that there might be a problem with one of your assets, Black Pearl will automatically go in and reconstitute it from whatever the easiest place it lives on. So we have the smart technology to go, all right, if this is living within the Black Pearl cache storage, or if it's living in an Arctic Blue, or if it's LTFS tape, or if it's in the cloud, it will go back, pull that asset back, and reconstitute it. And then the other thing is we monitor the tape integrity. And if there ever is a question of that, a tape is starting to go get a little wonky, we will go back in, find the copy, recreate that copy, and then retire that tape that's in question. So these are just some of the features that Black Pearl offers.
All right, great. Well, thank you. At this point, I think we're going to open it up to questions. Once again, if you have any questions, you can put it into the box on the GoToMeeting, or ask them via audio. And at this point, everyone should be unmuted. All right, so I do have a question here about how to get more information. As you can see here on this last slide, if you would like to contact SpectraLogic, you can contact Spectra at broadcast@spectralogic.com or info@marquis.com. We also have a couple solution briefs that you are able to access on the SpectraLogic website, and then we will also be sending out a version of this recording along with a couple assets for you all to review. And then at this point, I don't believe there are any other questions. Chris might have a couple closing comments, and then we'll go from there.
So, Chris Steele, how are other customers and other businesses such as broadcasters utilizing, broadcasters, post-production house, production houses similar to Hattrick? How are they also using project parking? Because as we know, I mean, managing a project end to end and archiving it is a very helpful tool. So I don't know. I think we might be having problems with Chris, but Adam, what have been the biggest overall value adds and pain points? I know you kind of went over it a little bit, but the biggest value adds, whether it be efficiencies with your end users, whether it's cost savings, whether it's in economics, what has been the biggest value of utilizing Spectra and the Marquis project parking in conjunction with Avid?
It's Chris Steele here from Marquis Broadcast.
Hey, great.
How are other users, how are broadcasters using parking technology? I guess one of the ones that we've not mentioned that Hattrick are also using is using workspace parking technology to provide disaster recovery copies of entire workspaces, Avid workspaces, and even to synchronize Avid workspaces across 2 different sites. So Hattrick have 2 sites in London, and they're synchronizing some critical workspaces across between those 2 sites, and that means that if they have a fast turnaround, high value program, such as a television series that's going to go out within a day or so, and there's an equipment failure or they no longer have access to the building for whatever reason, they can swap to the other site and pick up the edit there and only lose 20-30 minutes of time. So that's a really critical use, particularly in the fast turnaround, high value work.
Great. And then we have a question here. Is interplay required at all for this workflow?
Chris Steele again from Marquis. No, interplay is not required for this workflow. You can use it with interplay, but it's certainly not required. All of the indexing that Marquis parking does, it does on the media files and the project metadata itself.
So Adam, to follow up on that question I asked earlier, so the marriage of Marquis and Spectra, how has that created efficiencies? Have you seen that with end users and their efficiency and their ability to do their job, to distribute your job? Are you seeing a monetary gain from this collaboration?
Hello, Bob. This is Adam. Yeah, sorry, I was muted and couldn't get back in.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit we've seen with customers deploying Black Pearl and solutions such as the Marquis solution is just primarily simplicity. Simplicity, speed of use, elegance, and it just does what it says on the tin. It creates LTFS-enabled copies that can be read inside and outside the solution. And in the case of Hattrick's deployment, it's worked very elegantly with the Marquis deployment in an existing Avid environment. Outside of some post-production sites in broadcast, we've seen Black Pearl being used for simplifying the middleware layer to do long-term production archives, both for national film archives and for national broadcasters.
All right. So it looks like that's all the questions we have today. Chris Steele, Chris May, Matthew, excuse me, is there any other closing statements any of you have?
Oh, that was great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the time.
All right, fantastic. Like I said, we'll be sending out the recording and a couple of solution briefs for everyone to review. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a shout. Thank you all, and take care.
Thanks.
Thanks very much, Jesse.